What is going on, everybody? And this is more than likely going to be a very long video because I have been tagged. Yes, I have been tagged out of all people. So apparently there's this little game on YouTube. It's some type of video tag game where, and I don't know who started it, but basically it's a series of gaming questions and then you answer the gaming questions. Basically a way of, I guess, getting to know all the different types of gamers in this community. And then basically at the end of the video, you basically tag other people, and then they make their own videos, and then they tag people, and then it's like an endless chain. So, I was tagged by my good buddy, Sax Rebel HD, and I will link his channel in the description. He's a good dude. Definitely check out his channel. And, yeah, so let's get into these questions, because it's going to be a very long video, because some of these questions are very tough, and I have to get descriptive with some of them. So, but this should be fun. So, question number 1 is, how old were you when you first started playing video games? I was about 2 years old when I started playing video games, and in preparation for this video, I was looking for a picture, and I looked all over this picture. I looked in my mom's stuff, I looked at my grandma's house, I looked everywhere for this picture, because there is a picture of me with my grandmother opening a Nintendo Entertainment System on my 2nd birthday. And I just wanted to share that picture because it had to have been my 2nd birthday. So, there's that. But I do have 2 other pictures here that kind of shows you, it's kind of like my earliest moments in video games. And I know I've shared them before on Twitter, but I know some of you don't follow me on Twitter. So I'd like to share them here, but they're really cool pictures, and I haven't seen these pictures for a long time, but yeah. It's basically me watching my uncle play Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on the NES. And first off, my god, look at my curly hair. Yeah, I used to have curly blonde hair, believe it or not, and I did not really care for it that much. Much to the dismay of certain family members, but that's a different story. But what's fascinating about this picture here is just look how mesmerized I am by the game. I mean, little did I know that the actual game itself is pretty much trash, and it has nothing to do with the actual Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon in any way. I didn't know that back then, though, so. But it's just amazing how fascinated I am by. Just look at me looking at that TV. I was mesmerized. And it wasn't just that game. It was basically any game that my uncle or my grandmother would play. And I would just sit and watch. And I can't really tell you why I watched, because I was 2 years old. Didn't really have much. I didn't have a thought process back then, but something about it captivated me. And then there was that magical day where I picked up my first controller and I started playing games. And my first video game was Super Mario Brothers, which is a lot of people's first games, and basically I've been playing video games ever since, and honestly I don't see myself stopping anytime soon, because I just love them that much. They've done so much for me in my life, and yeah, I was about 2 years old when I started playing video games, believe it or not. So, question number 2. What is it about video games that you love? Oh my god, these tough questions. There's so many things I love about video games. There's the characters in some of these games, the story in some of these games, the music in some of these games. Some of these games have some of the best music I've ever heard. And I even have some of this music on my music playing devices, like my phone and my iPod. It's awesome. And then the main thing I love about it is the fact that it's basically interactive media that basically revolves around the choices you make and the actions you perform. I mean, when you go watch movies or you read a book, basically all that stuff is already done. It's already laid out for you, and you just have to watch it or read it. But with video games, you're the one controlling the actions. You're the one, and in some of these games, you make the actual decisions in the game, and then it actually affects the game. The fact that you have that power and you have that control is just amazing. It's just really amazing, and you can't really get that in other forms of media. And that's why I love games so much, because it basically gives you that artistic freedom. And not to mention, sometimes some people can take some of these game clips and stuff and then make their own works of art. And I call it art, honestly. Basically works of art, and then make like YouTube videos and stuff out of it. It's just really amazing. You can't really do that with much other stuff. So, yeah, that's what I really love about video games. And another reason that I love them so much is, and I'm going to get a little personal here. I've talked about this in another video. So if you want to check out that video, it's basically me talking about depression that I had and sometimes still battle with. Basically, if it wasn't for video games, I really don't know how my life would turn out, because I didn't really have any friends growing up. Because I was usually made fun of, ironically, for playing video games. Because that's how it was back then. You were considered a nerd, a geek, and basically an outcast of society if you played video games. It was looked down upon, unlike today. So yeah, I didn't have a lot of friends growing up, and not to mention there were personal family issues, like my mom and dad divorced when I was 3 years old, so I was basically hopping back and forth between my mom and dad every other weekend. And basically, video games were like my only friend a lot of the times. I mean, sure, I had my grandmother and my uncle, and then eventually I had my older brother. But basically, it was video games that they were my companion. And there were times when I'd be bullied, and I would just want to survive the school day just so I could get home and play games, because when I'm playing games, I'm happy. I'm content. And I really don't know how my life would turn out if video games didn't exist. As sad as that might seem to some of you who might be watching this, I'm being honest. I don't know how my life would turn out if it wasn't for video games. So I basically owe them my life, so to speak. So, okay. Question number 3. Can violent and graphic games be a bad influence on people? Well, I guess it could. It really depends on the person. It depends if the person's already mentally unbalanced, so to speak. And maybe some of the actual visions of some of this gore and all these violent images in these games might affect their brain. But see, that's not really the game's fault. The person already has an issue. And they really shouldn't be seeing some of this stuff. Like, you have soldiers with PTSD. And you really shouldn't be showing these people this stuff. And that's not the developer's fault. It's not the gaming industry's fault. They make products that are suited for a certain type of audience. And if you're not part of that audience, then you shouldn't be either playing that game or viewing that game. That's just how I see it. I mean, they can be, in a way, but and honestly, it's not much different from music. It's not much different from books. It's not much different from movies. Any form of media can influence a person, but it's not the media's fault. It's the person. It's their decision. If they choose to be influenced by this form of media, that's on them, really. I mean, a lot of people like to say that video games create all these mass killers, and it's because of games like Halo and Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty that we have all these shooters out there that are just shooting up theaters, shooting up schools, basically shooting up people at malls. It's just so much stuff. And they blame it on video games. Well, guess what? I've been playing video games since I was 2 years old. And I've played violent games. I've played some of the most violent games I've ever seen in my life. I have not committed one crime in my life. I have not gone to jail. I have not been stopped by the police. I have not engaged in any violent activity with really anybody, unless I had to defend myself in some instances. But that never got to an extreme level. I mean, if video games really were the sole reason for this influence, then I would think I would have done something already, but I haven't. So yeah, it depends on the person. It really does. So, question number 4. PC or console? Now, while I understand the benefits of PC gaming, I mean, there's mods, and then you can adjust all the controls, you can adjust all these little settings, and you can basically make the game how you really want it to be. But as much as I love mods and think that stuff's cool, I'm a console guy. I've been a console guy since I started playing games, and I'm not really interested in basically fidgeting with a lot of settings in these games, fidgeting with the frame rate and all these internal settings. And I guess you can call me lazy if you want to. That's fine. But you know what? After a long day of work, after personal issues that sometimes I have to deal with, and I want to play video games, I just want to pop the game in, turn on the TV, and then just play. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy video games. And I know I'm not alone. And, I mean, but once again, like I said, you can call me lazy if you want to, but that's how I like to play games. But I understand the benefits of PC gaming, but honestly, I really don't see myself anytime soon actually becoming a PC gamer. Not to mention, I haven't had much luck with PCs in my life. I've had virus attacks, and yeah, you can make the jokes that maybe I downloaded something I shouldn't have, blah, 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 blah. But sometimes I don't really do anything, and then something happens, and I don't know what to do, and it's too much of a hassle for me. It really is. So, yeah, I'm a console guy. But no disrespect to PC guys, and I understand the benefits of PC gaming. So, question number 5. Do you watch Let's Players on YouTube, and if so, who? I don't really watch much Let's Players on YouTube. Like, sometimes I look up hard difficulty playthroughs of certain games. Like, I used to watch the Seraphim 17. I don't know if any of you heard of him, but he did hard walkthroughs of just about every game that's out there. And I think the video that made me sub to him was he beat Gears of War 3 on Insane solo, the Locust Queen boss fight at the end. If any of you play Gears 3, that Locust Queen boss fight on Insane is one of the biggest pain in the asses you will ever encounter in any game. It is just because a lot of it's based on luck. But there are certain tactics that can put luck in your favor more often than not. And I watched his video, and it really helped me out, and I subbed to him. And if I ever have trouble with a game on a hard difficulty playthrough, I check out his channel and see if he's actually played the game. But as far as an actual tried and true Let's Player who just plays every single type of game that's really out there, the only guy I've really followed is DSP Gaming, also known as Darkside Phil. And I know a lot of people don't like him for various reasons. But the main reason I like him is sometimes he makes me laugh, because sometimes he can be funny. I mean, if you don't have to agree with that. But the main reason I like him is that I know I'm getting an honest reaction from him. He's doing a live, raw, uncut playthrough of a game. You're basically experiencing the game alongside him. He's not editing out little bits and pieces. It's basically, and some people call that lazy, like, oh, I don't want to see a raw playthrough of a game. But some people like that, and I like that stuff, because I like seeing other people's full experiences of games. That's why I like watching certain people stream games. I'm seeing their live experience to this game, and I like watching that. And Darkside Phil was really the main person on YouTube that did those kind of playthroughs, and that's the main reason I like him, is because whether I agree with him or not, I know I'm getting his honest reaction. And honesty is a very important quality to me. If any of you know me, honesty is extremely important to me. So, and once again, I know a lot of people don't care for him, but that's how it is for me. So, question number, I think we're on 6. If you watch players, yeah, I kind of already answered that, so we're kind of going to skip that one. So, question number 7. What is your favorite genre of game? I love all sorts of genres. I do. I think the only real genres I don't care for are puzzle games. Even though I did enjoy this one game called Puzzle Quest. It was on the DS, PS2, and I played it on the PSP. It was a very fun, addicting game, but even though it was a puzzle game, it had a ton of RPG elements, and I love RPGs, so that's probably what made me really like the game. But I'm not into most puzzle games like Tetris, games like that, even though I know Tetris is very popular. My mom used to be a Tetris addict when we had the NES, and I would hate the fact that I have to wait to play Zelda and Mario because she's playing goddamn Tetris. So there's that. Not RTSs, real-time strategy games. I just never really got into them. I can't really tell you why. It's just I just never really got into them. So, but I like most genres. But my favorite genre, without a doubt, is platformers. Whether it's side-scrolling platformers or 3D platformers. I love platformers. Mostly because that's what I grew up with. I grew up with Mario. I grew up with Donkey Kong Country. Castlevania. Just, the list goes on and on of so many platforming games I played. And then, of course, you go to the Nintendo 64. Banjo-Kazooie. Banjo-Tooie. And then, of course, the Gex games. The Spyro games. There are so many great platforming games out there, and I just love the genre so much. And it's a shame that, aside from a few exceptions like Rayman Legends and Origins, and you got Shovel Knight that just came out on PS4 and Xbox One, there aren't many platforming games around nowadays. And it's a shame, it really is. I'd love to see it make a comeback. But the main reason I like platforming games is that it's mostly based around your actual skill. To beat the level in a platforming game, it's got to be on you. Now, of course, there are some games that have some cheap stuff in them. I'm not going to deny that. But at the end of the day, it's up to your skill at the game to complete it. And I like that. It gives you a sense of satisfaction when you beat a game like that. But yeah, I just never get tired of playing platforming games. So that's my favorite genre. Question number 8. Are you an old school gamer, or do you like getting the newest consoles? I'm both. I play current games, I play old school games. I'm an old school gamer, and I game today too. I play anything as long as it's fun. I don't care if it's 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit, 64-bit, 128-bit, 720p, 900p, 1080p, 30 frames per second, 45 frames per second, 45 frames per second, 60 frames per... I don't care. As long as it's fun, I will freaking play it. It's as simple as that. So, I'm an all-around gamer. Number 9, Nintendo or Sega? Nintendo all the freaking way. I grew up with Nintendo. I was loyal to Nintendo all the way up to the Nintendo 64. Even though my grandmother demonstrated a Sega Saturn system, I think it was a Toys R Us or maybe a Walmart, and they gave her one for free. That was my first Sega system, was a Sega Saturn. And then, unfortunately, my mom felt bad for my cousins down in Alabama who didn't have a video game system, and she gave them my Sega Saturn. Then their father, a month later, then he decided that he didn't want them playing video games, and he basically trashed the console. So, yeah, there goes my Sega Saturn is in some landfill or somewhere, some type of asphalt, unfortunately. And that still kind of pisses me off a little bit to this day, because some people like to collect these old consoles and keep them around because they could be worth something someday. But that's a long time ago, and that's long gone. But yeah, Nintendo all the way. I liked the Nintendo exclusives better than the Sega Genesis. I liked the controller better than the Genesis. I hate the first model Genesis controller. I do. There were just way too many buttons on it, or actually no, it's not really the amount of buttons. It's really like the way they were utilized. Like, I remember Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter in that game, you had to basically... Now I know, there wasn't enough buttons for... Now I remember, I'm sorry for jumbling. I'm just trying to formulate all this in my head. There really wasn't enough buttons for fighting games like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. So basically, I think you had to hold the select button and then hit one of the attack buttons to block. But see, on the Super Nintendo controller, you had enough buttons to do every command. And not to mention, the Super Nintendo controller had that perfect dog bone shape where you just fit perfectly in your hand. In my opinion, that's probably one of the best ever designed controllers in history. The Super Nintendo controller. I love that controller so much. So there's that. And of course, the Sega flagship game was Sonic the Hedgehog. And I do like Sonic, but I feel he's overrated. Because once you get past the fact that the game goes really fast, because that's its gimmick, is that it goes super fast. What is really there that's amazing about the game? I mean, the music's good in some of the levels, and the graphics are good, but the funny thing is, you don't really take the time to soak all that in because you're so fixated on going through the level as fast as you can. I just think they really spent too much time on that gimmick. Whereas if you look at, say, Mario games like Super Mario World, you had time to soak in all the level design, look at all the graphics, and then, of course, you had secret levels and stuff like that. I mean, the Sonic games, when you really think about it, they're really too short. I mean, you could beat those games in under, 3 hours? I mean, I'm sure back then we really didn't as kids because we didn't really know everything. And, of course, it added more replayability to the game. But when you look at everything in hindsight, I just think Sonic spent too much time on that gimmick of going fast instead of actually having decent level design and just stuff you remember about the game. I mean, are the Sonic enemies memorable? I mean, I know Dr. Robotnik or Eggman, whatever you want to call him. I know he's memorable, and I know Tails is memorable, Amy Rose is memorable, and Knuckles, but how about any enemies? How about some specific levels? Not much, at least when you look at Mario. Like, there were Mario enemies that I will always remember, and levels that I will always remember, so... Not to mention, on a technical level, the Super Nintendo is better than the Genesis in every way, except for processor speed. In every other category, the Super Nintendo is better than the Sega Genesis, so that's another reason why I like Nintendo more. So, okay. Question number 10. Favorite and least favorite video game character? Wow, this is a tough one. Gosh, some of these questions are just very, very tough, and it's very hard to pick out of so many characters that I like and dislike. But you gotta pick one. You gotta pick one, and after thinking about it for a little bit, I would have to say my favorite video game character is Gex the Gecko. Simply because he's a real cool character. He spouts out movie lines while you're playing the game, and there's so many movie lines and television references. It's real awesome. And once again, I grew up in that time period where you had these platforming games, and I always thought of him as just a cool character. Just a real cool character. And it's a real damn shame that series is dead. And I'd like to see it make a return, especially since you have so much material today with shitty television and shitty movies. There's so much material to work with now. I don't see why Gex could not work in today's gaming environment. So, as for my least favorite character, I'm going to have to give it to Slippy the Toad from Star Fox. I cannot tell you how many headaches I've gotten from hearing, "Fox, help me! Fox, do something! Save me, Fox! Save me!" Shut up! Shut the fuck up, Slippy! Shut your goddamn mouth! And honestly, I'd let Slippy die. I would let Slippy die so I would not have to hear that in my head. After I'm done playing the game, I would still hear it in my head. Oh my god, such an annoying character. And the funny thing is that, Slippy, you're an R-Wing pilot like Fox. You should have the same type of training. Yet you're completely freaking useless. You are completely goddamn useless. So yeah, nothing about that character I like whatsoever. Just not likable at all. Slippy, go the fuck away. Please never return. I know you might be, if Nintendo ever makes another Star Fox, you're probably unfortunately going to come back. Much to my chagrin. But yeah, no. Just, I'm done. I'm done. If you're in that game, I'm going to let you die in that game too, Slippy. I'm just telling you right now. So, alright. Question number 11. Are you a Let's Player? And if yes, what influenced you to make a gaming channel? If no, would you ever consider making one? Now, I wouldn't consider myself a Let's Player, even though I do have some playthroughs up on my channel. But what influenced me to make a gaming channel was that I just want to enjoy making fun content for people. Stuff that I think is funny, and I'd just like to share it with other people, and, they might get a kick out of it, They might be having a bad day, and, they might happen to come across one of my videos, and they might laugh. And that's cool. Because I've done it. I've had several bad days, and then I would go to YouTube, and then I would come across a funny video, and it would make me laugh, and make me forget about why my day was terrible. And I'd like to do that myself. And I try my best with that. I know sometimes I might put up videos that nobody cares about, but you know what? It doesn't hurt to try. And basically, I was influenced by several people on YouTube basically making these types of videos. And then I eventually got my capture card in May of 2013, and I've been making gaming content, or at least direct capture content, ever since. Before, I'd have to use my cell phone to record footage, and it's not the best looking footage. It really isn't. But yeah, I wouldn't really call myself a Let's Player because I don't really do playthroughs of many games. So, question number 12. Favorite video game soundtrack? Oh my freaking god, that is so freaking tough. There are so many great video game soundtracks. There's NES music, Super Nintendo music, Nintendo 64 music, PlayStation music. I could go on and on and on about how much awesome music there is in gaming. And like I said earlier in this video, I still listen to some of it on my music devices. Because it's just great music. It really is. It's done really freaking well. And in some cases, I would actually put it on par with music from, like, actual CDs, records, and then movies. I would put it on par with them. But, guys, my favorite one, if I had to pick one, and by picking one, I'm not saying it's my absolute favorite one, because I can go back and forth with a lot of them. But honestly, off the top of my head, if I had to pick one, it'd be The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time soundtrack. There are so many great music tracks in there. A lot of the temple musics, like the original Fire Temple music, is probably one of my favorite Legend of Zelda dungeon musics in the entire series. The original Fire Temple music. And I say original because, for whatever reason, and somebody can explain this to me, but apparently there was some outrage, and Nintendo had to change the music in the future re-releases of Ocarina of Time, and the new Fire Temple music is not that great, in my opinion. At least when compared to the original. But yeah, there's so many great tracks from there, and I have actually bought the CD. I actually ordered the CD from a Nintendo catalog. And to this day, sometimes it'll pop up on my iPod, and I'll listen to it. And it's just great stuff. So, but like I said, there's so many great ones out there. There are so many great music, or video game music soundtracks out there. I can go on all day with this stuff. I really could. But we'll just stick with Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. So, question number 13. Any game recommendations? Oh my god, once again, I could go on all day with this. There's so many games out there I could recommend to people. There are so many hidden gems out there I could recommend to people. But I'll just name a few. I have a playthrough of this on my channel. It's Gex 3 Deep Cover Gecko. And while I do recommend the entire Gex series, if you only have time to play one of the games in the series, play that one. That is one of my most favorite games of all time. And if you want to check out, and I don't want to say I'm basically promoting myself here, so to speak, but definitely check out some of my videos if you just like to check the game out. But I highly recommend it if you love old school platformers. And I want the series to come back. I really do. There's that. Banjo-Kazooie. If none of you played Banjo-Kazooie yet, go play Banjo-Kazooie. It's on Xbox Live. It's on Nintendo 64. Definitely play that game, especially if you love old school platformers. I love those games. There's so many hidden gems from the last generation on the 360 and PS3. There's Mafia 2. There's Red Faction Guerrilla, Qual Force Bound in Blood. There's so many hidden gems out there. I could go on all day, really, with games I could recommend people playing. Like the Spyro the Dragon. I could go on all day, but yeah, there's the few that I named. Definitely check those games out if you'd like to. I highly recommend them, but there are so many out there. There are so many out there. Question number 14. Here's another tough one here. Another tough one that requires a lot of thought. If you could be any character from any game, who would you choose and why? Oh, okay. Honestly, and I've thought about this. If I had to be a character in any game, I would like to be Link from the Legend of Zelda series. And the reason for that is because it's awesome that he doesn't have to speak. And yet he's got this awesome charisma around his character that attracts a lot of gamers. And, you know, me being someone who is shy. I know some of you might not believe that, knowing how I make videos, but I'm normally a shy person, and I've been a shy person all my life. I don't really like to talk that much in public. I like to listen more. And I would like to say I don't really have any charisma whatsoever. But yeah, it's just cool to see a character that just exudes all these characteristics that I don't have. And he doesn't even speak. He doesn't even speak. I mean, when you look at other, like, not just video game characters, but characters like in movies and in sports, like wrestling, like The Rock, for example. The Rock is called the most electrifying man in sports and entertainment. And he's got lots of awesome catchphrases, and he's great on the microphone. He exudes all that charisma. But see, he talks. But Link attracts people, and he doesn't even say a word. Not even in text form, he doesn't say a word. And that's awesome. And not to mention, he's good with a sword. He's got the legendary Master Sword. He destroys things with that. He's great at cutting grass. He doesn't need to use a lawnmower or anything. He just uses a sword to cut grass. He can somehow carry hundreds and hundreds of different types of items in like this magical pocket he has, or something. Just, yeah, if I had to be a character, I would like to be Link. That would be really cool. That would be awesome. And finally, number 15, who do you tag? Okay. Now, I'd be interested to see if actually the people I do tag here will actually make this type of video. But I'm just going to pick people off the top of my head. If any of you guys who happen to be watching this, who I'm about to tag, if you don't have to make this video, it's fine. I just need people to tag. So, okay. I'm going to tag my good buddy, Wise Nate, my good buddy, Anthony, also known as Antics of Anthony on Twitter, and then Amzav Games, and whatever the hell is that, I can't pronounce it, whatever the hell your name is on YouTube. My good buddy, Mike Vita, Live the Vita, Believe in Vita, whatever other names he has. I'm going to tag you, Vita. And I'm also going to tag my good buddy, Caesar the Pleaser. So, yeah. I'd be interested to see some of your guys' video on this topic. It'd be cool to see. But once again, if you don't want to do it, that's perfectly fine. So, oh boy, that is the end of this very long video. And, if any of you watched the whole thing, I appreciate it. You deserve a medal for sticking through it, more than likely. So, I appreciate you watching, and hope you enjoyed the video. And until next time, have a good one. See you later.